It didn't explode into headlines overnight, but something strange was building behind the scenes. On one side stood Matt Armstrong, known for bringing wrecked supercars back to life in front of millions. On the other side stood Ferrari, a brand famous for controlling every detail of its machines. And caught between them was a silent, unfinished Ferrari 296 GTB, a car capable of 819 horsepower, yet unable to even start. Parts had stopped coming. Systems were locked. And what started as a rebuild was turning into something much bigger. But how does a car this advanced end up completely powerless? Inside his garage, Armstrong stood over what should have been one of the most cutting-edge road cars ever built. The 296 GTB, launched in 2021, combined a twin-turbo V6 with an electric motor to deliver brutal performance. On paper, it could hit 100 km per hour in just 2.9 seconds. In reality, this one didn't move at all, because it wouldn't start. The moment he powered it on, a warning flashed across the dashboard: hybrid system failure. Not a small issue. Not something you fix in an afternoon. So what exactly went wrong? The car had already been badly damaged before Armstrong bought it. A previous inspection suggested deep, expensive problems. But instead of walking away, he took it on. Piece by piece, he rebuilt it. Panels replaced. Structure repaired. Components reinstalled. Slowly, the car began to look whole again. But beneath the surface, nothing had changed. The same warning stayed. The same silence remained. So what was stopping it? Modern Ferraris aren't just machines. They're networks. Encrypted systems. Software-controlled platforms. The 296 GTB, in particular, represents a new era. High-voltage battery. Complex electronics. Integrated control systems managing everything from power delivery to energy recovery. And when something like that fails, access isn't open. It's restricted. And that's where the real problem began. Still, Armstrong didn't stop. Weeks turned into months. The build continued. But then something shifted. This wasn't just a repair anymore. He began installing parts from the Ferrari 296 Challenge, a track-only race version of the car. These weren't standard components. They belonged to a tightly controlled system. And suddenly, the project wasn't just unusual. It was outside the rules. But would that really matter? From the outside, the car looked complete. Aggressive. Finished. But press the ignition, and nothing changed. The dashboard lit up. The error stayed. The engine stayed silent. According to Armstrong, fixing it required Ferrari-level access. Dealer tools. Factory authorization. Things he didn't have. And then came another problem. Parts stopped arriving. Requests slowed down. And eventually, the message became clear. The car needed to go through official Ferrari inspection channels. But there was a catch. Would it even pass? By this point, the car had been heavily modified. Rebuilt outside approved procedures. Fitted with race-derived components. Even if everything was perfectly installed, it no longer matched Ferrari's framework. And that's where everything stalled. Not because of broken parts, but because of access. So what happens when you own something, but can't fully use it? The story becomes even more intense when you go back to where it all started. Before Armstrong ever touched the car, it had already been through a violent crash. Shortly after being delivered to its first owner, the 296 GTB lost control under acceleration. Over 800 horsepower sent to the rear wheels. A brief loss of traction. A sharp correction. Then another. Within seconds, control was gone. Impact followed. But what exactly failed in that moment? The damage was severe. Not just cosmetic. Structural components were compromised. Suspension torn apart. And most importantly, the hybrid system shut itself down. Modern safety systems are designed to do that after a crash. High-voltage components isolate. Electronics deactivate. The car protects itself. But once that happens, restarting everything isn't simple. It requires controlled intervention, manufacturer-level systems. And without that, the car stays locked permanently. By the time Armstrong found it, the car had already been written off in practical terms. Too complex, too expensive, too dependent on systems few people could access. But that's exactly why he bought it. Because for him, the risk was the point. But was this one step too far? He flew to Cyprus, where the car sat after the crash. The damage was worse in person, deeper, more complex. But the plan didn't change. He started working on it right there, brought parts, began the rebuild, then shipped it out to continue the process. And slowly, it transformed. Not back into what it was, but into something new. Something Ferrari never built. And that's where the tension really began. Because Ferrari doesn't just build cars. It manages them. Every part, every system, every configuration is tracked and controlled. When Armstrong started blending road car and race car components, that alignment broke. And according to him, that's when the flow of parts changed. At first, things moved. Then they slowed. Then they stopped. So was this intentional? Or just policy? By early 2026, the project reached a breaking point. The car looked finished. But it still wouldn't start. And now, the audience was watching closely.
Online discussion exploded.
Some blamed Ferrari, pointing to strict control and lack of access. Others blamed Armstrong, saying he crossed the line by modifying the car beyond its intended design. And one phrase kept appearing again and again. FAFO. Mess around, and find out. But who was really at fault? Because the facts are simple. The car doesn't run. The system is locked. Ferrari hasn't made a public statement. Everything else lives in the space between those facts. And that space is where the story grows. In the end, this isn't just about one car. It's about something bigger. What does it actually mean to own a machine like this? When a car depends on software, authorization, and manufacturer control, ownership starts to change. You can hold the keys. You can rebuild every panel. But without access, it still doesn't belong fully to you. And maybe that's the real story here. So now the question is simple. If you buy something, rebuild it, and bring it back to life, but still need permission to make it work, do you really own it?